not turn back to whatever form of anesthesia, you know, they're not, so about 3% and people at treatment centers and other people, all kinds of other people I've talked to over time say about that same number. I myself went to a treatment center and it was all men and they kept 70 to 80 men there. I was there 8 months. The guy who was a maintenance man kept track of everybody, and there were like 400 men that went through there in the 8 months that I was there, and there's like 7 of us sober. And there's a couple hundred dead, and a couple hundred in prison. And you know, once you get to the point of needing medical detox and needing treatment, that vortex you're in, that descending spiral, is getting tighter and tighter, and the consequences are getting higher and higher. So that's kind of the group also that I look at. I can't tell you how many people are social drinkers and start to cross that line and catch themselves and then are able to manage it or just stay away from alcohol altogether. I can't tell you that. I've known a lot of people over the years that said, you know, I drank along the way, but then this happened and I gave it up and I haven't touched it since. So, you know, seeing the problem ahead of time, so much of it has to do with family education of children. My family never talked about it. I belong to a real strict group. I grew up in Amish country, apostolic church, and things like sex and alcohol and stuff, if you didn't talk about it, they didn't exist, right? So I come 18, I go out in the world, I know nothing about any of this stuff. You know, and so education, you know, and there's a lot of ways to gently, if it's grandchildren or whatever, there's a lot of ways to get that point across it. This stuff is real, and it's more powerful than you, it will consume you. Again, alcohol doesn't consume everybody. I mean, most people that drink don't get consumed with these other drugs. You, anybody else that starts taking them, will have their hooks in you, and every cell in your body craves it. Yes, sir?
So, fortunately not in my immediate family, but in my Alfred family, we have a family member that we all believe suffers from alcoholism. And so my question is there any hope? I mean, can someone be helped that doesn't want to be helped, right? I mean, obviously the best case scenario is you realize you have a problem, you go. If the answer to that is yes, what is the one piece of advice, what is the one thing you would say that someone from the outside can do to, you know, try and get that person to that point where they realize that?
So the wisdom of Al-Anon, who's watched many millions of alcoholics kill themselves, and a few million get sober. That's the spouses and the children go to Al-Anon. Their wisdom is learning to detach with love, they call it. When you start managing, manipulating, mothering, the addict alcoholic, it just delays their bottom. You're preventing them from hitting a sufficient bottom to bring enough pain. I didn't get sober until the fear of getting sober was less than the pain of continuing to drink. And as long as I can dig my heels in and everybody around me, I'm drinking because you keep bothering me. I'm drinking because you give me trouble. I'm drinking, as long as I can blame it on all of you, I can rationalize by drinking. But when everybody took that away from me, it was just me. And there was just me in the bottle, and it got real painful real fast. So, again, I can't tell you what the right thing to do is. What Al-Anon teaches and what AA teaches is a strong dependence upon intuitive guidance from God. And quiet prayer, and being around other people that are going through or have gone through the same situation as you. And there's rooms full of them right here in Beaufort. And they'll talk to you and they'll help you. My phone number, my information is in there, but as somebody in recovery, I have found that I can't help anybody who doesn't first take a meaningful step towards me. If I try to sell somebody I'm getting sober, it never works. But if somebody has some humility and some earnestness and they say, I can't stop, and I'm miserable if I'm drinking and I'm miserable if I'm not, I don't know what to do. They've got probably a 50% chance of getting and staying sober at that point. Because so few people will their defiance allow them to get there, to humble themselves enough to ask for help. It about killed me. Yes, ma'am.
Are you seeing a lot of the fentanyl around Charleston or seeing in Beaufort? Are we seeing more coming in?
So the fentanyl she's referring to is about 50 times more powerful than morphine used to be. And let me back up and say this. My dad was a morphine addict for a short period of time. He was in the Battle of Bulge in Germany, got injured. They gave him morphine for a couple of weeks, and he, to his death, would not take even aspirin because of the withdrawal from that was so bad. After the Civil War, we had hundreds of thousands of young men addicted to morphine, and they pulled it out of all the pharmacies, or people breaking into pharmacies. If you go, this isn't the first rodeo. But now that you've got this stuff that's 50 times more potent, it is so, and I hate to keep using the same words, but there's just no margin of error in it. Where we're seeing it show up, the fentanyl is showing up. So the Oxycontin and the opiates that aren't as strong are showing up in people's medicine cabinets. This is the primary place that those are coming from. And people that can get pain prescriptions and so forth. But the fentanyl right now is coming in from Mexico, and it's coming in from China. And what these guys do is they take that and mix that with whatever, who knows, and they get pill presses and make the pills look like real pills, and they mix that stuff up, press them out, and sell them as Xanax, or sell them as this, or sell them as that. And that's what the kids that are dying from the fentanyl are getting their hands on. So here you've got somebody that doesn't really know what they do. They've got this drug that's strong, they mix a batch of it, and there's hot spots where there's more than there is in other spots or whatever. And somebody picks up that one that's got the, there's just the last week there was a story of a woman, 2 boys just ready to graduate high school. It was a couple weeks ago, I guess. 2 boys, they went out to a party the night before, they both come back, 10 o'clock in the morning, they're not up, she goes, they're both dead of fentanyl. Her twin boys laying, so it's on and on. And the big issue is this, the reason we can't be honest about this is because there's such a stigma in society. So when I told my dad I thought I was an alcoholic, the first thing my dad said to me, it didn't come from my side of the family. Think about that. The stigma is so much stronger than the empathy for your own child that I don't care the fact that you're an alcoholic and dying of it, I just don't want anybody to think that there's anything bad in my genetic pool. And that's how sick our society is about this. The conversation needs to get opened up. Things that the light gets shined on can't hide in the dark near as much. So, and the way we do that is one conversation at a time. Children, grandchildren, brothers, sisters, don't allow the stigma. You're eligible too. I hear people say, I'm not an alcoholic yet. Y-E-T, you're eligible too. You pick up any of these drugs because of a prescription or whatever, and the next thing you know, it's got its hooks in you. And you've got the fight of your life on your hands. One thing we know is there's a lot of elderly people. They're deeply addicted to these pharmaceuticals, and they've just given up. They don't have the energy to fight it. We see that all the time. And what does cause of death get listed as when somebody's in their 70s? And they could have had another 10 good years, but those pharmaceuticals have got their hooks in them and they just give up. And I've seen that a number of times. Anybody else with anything? Yes, sir.
You attributed this addiction to those things, the chemical I heard. How much of this addiction do you attribute to peer pressure?
Peer pressure? So the question is, how much of addiction do I attribute to peer pressure? I would say 80 to 100% in high school and college. But in my case, I was what you'd call a social drinker, I guess, up until I'm in my 30s and I've got some things in life that I don't know how to handle and I don't have anybody there. And so I'm drinking a bottle of vodka a night, and then it's 2 bottles of vodka a night, trying to cope. I would say that people that start drinking young and drinking heavily young from peer pressure, they bottom out in their 20s and 30s. The people who bottom out in their 40s and 50s didn't pick it up until a little later, and I'd say it's probably about split. But I also hear of people with a genetic link. There are certain nationalities that are more prone than others. One of the jokes I always hear is people say they're CIA, Catholic Irish alcoholic. There are certain genetic predispositions, and I don't know that there's the science, and I haven't talked to anybody that knows the science, but a lot of those people from those groups will say, when I took that first drink, I knew that was all I wanted to do. Or when I took that first drug, fill in the blank, that's all I wanted to do from there on out. So I think there's a genetic component, I think there's a peer pressure component, and then, but I think there's just a societal component with a lack of coping mechanisms that a lot of us end up feeling alone and abandoned, and there's nobody there, and there's, you know, whatever. Just reach out your hand and there's whatever, and somebody says, hey, you know, the doctor gave me this Xanax and it makes me feel better, and the next thing, you got a Xanax prescription, and before long the Xanax isn't enough, and then you're getting another prescription a little stronger and a little stronger, and before you know it, the hooks are in. So, yes, sir.
I've got two. The residents of our Native American reservation are a good example of genetic propensity, and it is actually, that is there. The alcohol contributes to their body different than it might to, let's say, mine. Two, all I continually hear are the problems that we have. And you're right, they've lost the battle. If you watch the police shows, the live police shows, there's 70 to 80% of the stops and the calls they make are drug or alcohol based. And most of them are drug. Now what do? Cops now carry 2 fentanyl in their pockets now. They never used to carry that. I don't mean fentanyl, Narcan. And they never had to do that before, but they sure saved some lives. So, in your expertise, when you're sitting down in other groups and listening, has anybody got a solution, or are we stuck with it?
So, the problem's been the same since man first crossed bridge. You know, the problem is thousands of years old. Biblically, you read the Old Testament about the guy with the slurred speech and making a fool of himself, right? It existed back then 5,000 years ago. You know, there's going to be a lot of us that want to feel different and feel we need to feel different. Education and demystifying stuff is up front is one of the biggest things, because that defiance, that peer pressure, if I'm getting away with something, then it's desirable, but if I'm not getting away with something, it's not near as desirable. And I'm not making any hard, fast statements here. These are my own opinions and what I see. But where I see the biggest difference that can be made is that 97% of the people that we invest all the money in treatment and come back out and there's nothing to catch them. And that's where I'm placing my efforts. There's people in the groups that I work with that are taking things into the schools, that are taking things into the community for education. What I'm about, what this is about, is trying to take that 3% and move it up to 50% to address the issues. You know, if you go, I did a resource page on there, and I purposely did this. There's only one of those. It's a government-funded, big business-funded treatment center on there. It's called Willing Way. You go to Willing Way, it's 30 grand a month to go to Willing Way. The other treatment centers I put on there, you can get in there with zero money. They take people off the streets, and you know, they try to get what money they can, but the recovery rates from those long-term places are much higher than the concierge, insurance covered, you know, treatment centers. I'm not saying there aren't people that get sober there, but the percentages that stay sober, the percentages aren't near as high. And again, most people have lost about everything by the time they get in enough pain to get sober. So that's where I see the biggest difference can be made. But what's one life? You know, if it's that grandchild of yours, and you see this 14, you see him heading into the wrong crowd, and you go to a couple Al-Anon meetings and you find some other kids who have gotten sober or are staying sober, that one life, I heard somebody say one time, you know, if there's 10,000 starfish on the beach and you throw one back in, it doesn't make that much of a difference. But to that one starfish, you were everything. You know, so, you know, I think the only way that we really make a dent in this thing is one person at a time, person to person. Let's drop the stigma, let's drop the pretenses, let's get honest with each other, and it exists in every occupation of society. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. That was actually a wonderful presentation. I've been dealing with addiction for 45 years, and we said medically, then we don't understand it. AA, the 12-step, do a lot better job than doctors, and that's still true. Doctors don't have an answer for addiction. But everything he said is exactly there. The thing is, I've known lots of people who are addicted or alcoholics. Some of them are a lot smarter than I am, some of them a lot tougher than I am, and they couldn't do it. And you just see it happen, and it can be tragic. The treatment, the 12 steps, seems to be the best thing going. I've seen, as people get some good results with Living Way, they have a sliding scale, so some people can get in there a lot cheaper. But once you start becoming addicted, it changes your brain. You can't get out of it. And to see just smart, tough people who cannot quit. About 15%, I think, of us have a gene that really makes it so we can't quit. So, and they're doctors and they're lawyers and they're also, some people continue to be able to work with it. I guess the other one to get onto is opioids. Opioids are really a doctor-created epidemic. It wasn't here, the doctor started writing a lot of opioid prescriptions. And the truth on opioids is, one, they're very addictive. Two, they really aren't very good for pain. JAMA had an article published, a summary of evidence for opioids. Opioids really don't do a very good job of pain. For most pain, ibuprofen and Aleve over-the-counter are equally good for pain relief. So if you can avoid taking an opioid, avoid the opioid. Now, Clay is an orthopedist. He creates a lot of pain, so he has to treat it. I have a son who's a rheumatologist in Florida, and he has to deal with a lot of pain. He really tries to avoid opioids totally. So if you have anything, try to avoid opioids, but have a lot of sympathy for someone who's addicted. It's wonderful people become addicted, and it can destroy it. So thank you for what you're doing.
The link to the articles in your brochure, and I put 2 articles in there. Those articles are all from people just like you. It's not about me, it's about people who've lost children, brothers, sisters, people that have gotten sober. I encourage you to follow that link, and if you have time, there's 2 of them in that booklet to get you started. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. That was great. Really appreciate it. Okay, we're going to let him draw now for a $157 prize. Oh. There you go. Pull the ticket. I got it. And the winning ticket is last 4, 0834. 0834. I got it. Hey, I got it. And in keeping with the thing, it's a gift certificate for Bill, so I can get some alcohol. Is that right? What it? I mean, it is. I'll donate that back to the club. What? Oh yes, these are for sale, or these are just.
Custom making, people in recovery make these.
So take a look at them and talk to Dave. You'll be around after the meeting. Great. Oh yeah, I'll cut the cards. Jack of diamonds. Okay, we're down to what, 43 cards? All right.
Yeah.
Raffle's over, I'll be darned. Okay. Anything else for the, yes, Steve?
Jeff, thank you. Just very briefly, I was just informed that the tree that we planted for Lisa's lost son is rapidly losing all of its leaves and is in dire need of watering. And so anybody who is over near the Live Oak Park, we're getting a lot of help from St. Mark's, but we need more help. Anyone that's over there is a faucet. Just bring a bucket and put some water on that tree. Let's let it live.
Thank you. Okay, that's Lisa's son's tree. Anything else for the good of Rotary? If not, would you please stand for the 4-way test, and then Dean Moss will give the closing prayer.
Let's pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful hot day. We thank you for the fellowship we share. We thank you for this beautiful place we live in. Please guide us and direct us as we go forward this week. Protect all